I just want to thank the Creator for this special day. Shetegos Colch Jagatumut Tams non pagam Jagats Ugetas Cooktum or Glachlach Chui. I thank you, Creator, for this day. We pray for our families, our elders, everyone who's in need. Pray a special prayer for the ones that are journeying to the other side, and comfort each and every one of their families, friends. Thank you for the wind ones, the swimmers, the four-legged, our cedar trees, and our mountains and medicine, our waters. Let's see them. I help be there for loved ones that journey to the other side before they journey, to help them and their family, because it's not easy to let your loved ones go. We get kind of stingy. We don't want them to go, but just think of it, how grateful and happy they are back there waiting. Your grandmothers, your grandfathers, your parents, whoever went before you. They're not alone. They're not alone. All the ancestors are there, wishing them a good journey. Show them the light. Amawika. In our language, it means you go ahead of me. We say that to the loved ones when they journey. Amawika. You go now and you prepare for us. Amawika, because we have no goodbyes in our life, in our saying. It's never a goodbye. One day we're all going to be in that circle. Amawika.
When I first went to get the diagnosis, Dr. Berthollet was there, and he was on a wheelie chair, and he wheeled right up to me, put his hands on my knee, and looked me in the eye, and said, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but not only did I have more than 40 lung tumors, I also had 10 brain tumors and some bone cancer. It was so personal and empathetic. And it just made all the difference. My initial reaction was curiosity. Oh, I'm going to find out what's over the other side. People were puzzled that I wasn't more upset, maybe uncomfortable. Somebody said to me, well, you're not fighting it. Well, no, I'm not fighting it, because what's there to fight? That's life. I mean, you've got a choice of how to react. I've seen people react, very angry or resentful. For me, that's not a way I want to spend my last time.
At the end of the day, we are in charge of our own health journey. Don't be afraid to really seek out support, really seek out second opinions, ask a lot of questions. This is part of that directing your healthcare and figuring out what feels best for you. What do you need? Would you like to have more supports? Would you like to take a more spiritual path? What feels the best for you for that journey?
I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure about 4 years ago, actually, almost. I understood this was a serious situation, but I also knew I had lots of choices with how I would approach it. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And the physical involves many different things. And one of them is the pharmaceutical medications and surgeries that our healthcare system can provide. And what is it I can be doing in my natural way for my body, as well as activity and so on. Relationships, all of it. So it's such a whole. So I'm kind of the center of all of these approaches and using the best of all of them. I took my diagnosis as information. Oh, there's a deeper healing to work with here. I wonder what this is teaching me. I wonder what is it I'm to learn. I've understood it as a healing journey.
I started having trouble with my balance, and it was decided that I had ALS. We made the doctor tell us, what the future was going to be like or how long it was going to be, and he said 2 years, pretty much. And I think we were just floored, didn't know what to do.
The first time you get the diagnosis, you don't actually know what questions to ask. It's hard to know how it's going to affect you and how it's going to affect the person that you love and that is going to be living and dying with this. There's no question about how it ends.
It just seems that every week or two there's another something you can't do. You just see it coming. You can feel it coming.
You really do have to do one step at a time and not look too far into the future, not stay in your mind with a horrific end, but to be there for how it is now. How it is now, and not to even worry about tomorrow, because it'll show up.
I had to say yes or no to a feeding tube, and I didn't know much about it, but we learned about it, and it's just another complication, and it's prolonging something that's inevitable anyway. And so I said no to that, which basically if you can't eat, you're not going to live anyway. So I think as the disease progresses, I think it would be more and more inclined to use medical assistance in dying.
When I think about palliative care, I think about it kind of on this continuum. And it can exist at all points of a journey, a healthcare journey, right? And so maybe someone is diagnosed and they're focusing on cure. So they want chemo or surgery and radiation, all that kind of thing. You can still get palliative care while you're focusing on cure. to help to manage any symptoms, to help you plan for your future. And maybe kind of later on in that trajectory, maybe your focus is going to change. Maybe those treatments aren't working, or maybe the side effects are just unbearable and you want to stop. That's another point. You can still get palliative care, and maybe we're starting to focus more on, you know, control of your symptoms and your quality of life, but you're still open to, you know what, if there was something reversible with my health, if I needed a blood transfusion to give me some energy and take away my shortness of breath, I'm okay with getting that. So you're still getting some aggressive care, but you can still get palliative care at the same time to help manage your symptoms and give you good quality of life. There's a point where they don't want to even focus on reversible things anymore. They are kind of like, if just let me be. I want to 100% focus on my comfort, whether that be at home or in hospice, and I don't want to go to the hospital anymore. I just want to be comfortable, and when I pass away, I pass away. Hope isn't lost. Hope just changes. So maybe we're not hoping for a cure anymore, but we are hoping for a good quality of life. We are hoping that your pain is managed, that you have time with your loved ones. That's quality time.
My hopes is that I keep up my energy so that I can keep my body moving. I guess that it won't be too painful, that my death won't be too painful. It's a lot of work getting ready to die. You know, you've got a lot of putting your house in order, both figuratively and literally.
I just hope that it's peaceful and that I can leave everybody happier to have known me than, I mean, I don't want them to be upset. I can't do anything about that, but I just want everybody to know that I love them and care for them a lot.
Talk about it. Mm-hmm. Don't have it be the big elephant in the room. Talk about it with your children. Make your will. Let them know what's happening. The most real thing that's going on is death is coming. But then the most important thing is to be living all the time that you have.
This year has been one like no other. Moving through a diagnosis of terminal illness. My partner was diagnosed with ALS. And together the two of us danced through a very rich, profound intimacy in laboring for death. It happened really fast. From the day of diagnosis to his death on October 29th, it was a remarkable experience to witness the body dying and aging that fast. I became a nurse. I was a dentist, hygienist. I learned to shave his face, his hair, and be his arms, his hands, his legs. I was everything. So it was a high intensity and demanding time for me. and a time for him of shape-shifting his reality of self. His body weakening, and him having to really accept my support. As a 49-year-old man, it was a big deal. You know, having to let go, accept and let go. And he did it with an amazing amount of courage and strength and grace. Mm-hmm. And so my reaction was to like hold him, hold the space and be there, just be present. I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. I just kept saying, I'm here, I'm here.
There is not some magic good way to deal with the news that you're going to die, or that somebody you love is going to die, or to deal with the grief of somebody dying. You're in a world where you just have to do whatever you can do to get by. And to understand, I think, that a lot of times you don't. A lot of times you can't wrap your head around it, and you are overwhelmed. You have to hold all these different things at the same time. Acceptance, not acceptance. And that's just the way it is. It's a mess. For me, I've lived with this person since we were 16. I was always convinced that I would die first. She was incredibly healthy, and then suddenly she received a terminal diagnosis. She had pancreatic cancer. By being the survivor, I was able to be there and support her as best I could, and for her to be able to die at home, which I think was important to her. It was handy in a way because there was such a focus. My job was to take care of her. So I could devote a lot of energy to doing that. You know, preparing meals or medications or sleeping arrangements or cleaning up or whatever. I think if I was to advise somebody who's going to be in a caretaker role, a piece of that is to understand that it's not just about you, and that especially when it comes closer to the end, a person's attention naturally has to go with the process of dying. And part of that is you're not a central figure anymore. That's a possibility. And be okay with that. And it doesn't reflect badly on you.
It takes everything. It takes everything you have to be a caregiver and to keep giving when you're too tired, to keep giving when you're angry, to keep giving when you don't have anything left. It's hard to be as generous with your caring when you're hurting or when you're feeling like you're just too darn tired. And then that's hard on your self-esteem because you feel like, oh, I need to be kind. And I want to be kind. But you can't always make yourself be kind. I just care about being as loving and kind as I can be every day, and apologizing when that's not what happened, and trying again. None of us are perfect.
The exhaustion is a real thing as a caregiver. The reality is that in this situation, I was up every 2 hours through the night for several months, maybe every 4 hours when it was a good night, you know. But my nervous system would wake me up anyways, because the call of duty, you know, you just sort of get programmed in. I just kept digging deeper, even though I had some breakdowns. I had some moments that I felt I couldn't carry on. And Troy would be sitting right here in this chair saying to me, I've been waiting for you to fall apart. And I just get back up and keep dancing with him.
You know, I think if you had a stress reduction strategy, it would be to accept and let go. Just focus on what really matters and let the other stuff go. I really have learned to just not care about the little stuff. It just doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I remember people saying, you've got to take care of yourself to be able to take care of him. And I was like, okay, what does that mean for me? Like, what is self-care for me? And so I did all the things. I did the hot baths. I had, you know, nourishing food. I drank lots of water. I did movement. I did give myself permission to just sit and meditate and not move. So every time I would come out of the bedroom that he was in or out of the space he was in, I would take a deep breath. I would stand and just check in with my body, take note, make a decision that I could take a step forward and keep going in the day. And that would happen several times in the day and night.
There are things that can help, I think, for sure. Family, friends, nature, music, books, poetry. But there are also times when you just have to hang on. And that's your job, is to hang on.
I'm able to give more compassion to myself now. But I'm not real good at self-care. Stuff just drops away. And it kind of becomes almost another thing you have to do. It's like, oh God, I have to do that too. Sorry, not going to happen. I think the thing about self-care is that it isn't going for a spa treatment. It could be, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be a really good visit with a friend. It could be sitting outside and looking at the beauty. It could be looking into the eyes of people you love. You know, there's so many ways to regenerate your spirit. And it's the spirit that takes a huge battering in this process.
We all need to be grounded and take time to take care of ourselves. You know, being there for others is good, but we need to take care of ourselves too, our health, so we can carry on. And especially going out into the forest there, that's our church, where all the cedar is, nature, the water. So you ever feel heavy, down, that's what you do. I have a special tree that I go to, a cedar tree, a big tree. So when I start feeling heavy, that's where I go and work on myself and brush myself down. We use a lot of that in ceremony. It's our medicine. Like our people always use it for when our people journey. And you see it around the casket. And I don't mind sharing our medicine with anybody because it's not just for us, it's for everybody that needs that uplifting in life.
My doctor comes in looking very serious. She sits down and says, "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry." And she's kind of stuttering and tears up. And she says, "You have cancer." And so I'm sitting there and I said, "Well, I don't really know what to do." And then I look at my watch and I said, "I'm supposed to have a dentist appointment in 15 minutes. Is it okay for me to go to the dentist?" And my doctor, who'd been crying, laughs and says, "It's okay, Betty, go to your dentist." So the beautiful part of the story in this community is I go to my dentist and I said, "I can't talk very much when I'm in the chair because I've just learned that I have cancer." So she takes my hand and she says, "You have so much positive energy. Everyone you tell about this will love you. They will send love and healing. Everything that will happen to you will be grounded in love." So I come out of my dentist and I'm kind of like, well, cancer's not so bad so far. Like I was just feeling just like she washed me in this care. My friend was also kind of funny, kind of was shocked, stood up, gave me a hug, went back and sat down and crossed her arms like this and says, "There's a whole bunch of this we can control. I'm going to set up a system where people can help you, and everybody you tell from now on, just give them my email and we'll set up a system." It was like magic. And I'm eternally grateful. I mean, this community cared for me for 6 months. It's a phenomenal thing to experience.
My first thing would be to say that you draw upon the most intimate people you have in your life that you feel completely comfortable with, and you ask them to be a part of this journey with you so that you're not alone. Everyone will ask you what can they do to help you, and you don't know the answers to those questions. We were trying to navigate our own emotions and our own feelings around death and dying and being told that you have a terminal illness. And the first thing that we said yes to was food. People bringing us meals, and it was a life-saving thread through the whole period of time. And that was the one thing I didn't have to do, was make meals. The community fed us. Each person will have something unique that they can offer.
It's hard for me to receive because I've been bustling about my whole life, you know, fixing things and helping people. And so that's a big lesson. Probably the biggest lesson of getting cancer is receiving. And I'm still not that good at it, but I'm getting better.
How does that feel? How's your legs?
My heels?
Your heels.
Yeah.
Have you still got some?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a start.
How's Tatiana today?
I'm good.
You worked this morning?
What helps a person cope is you ask for help. You have to ask for help. You'll have to come to a place in yourself where you can ask for help. I had to ask for help when I realized that I wasn't able to give John the care that he needed. Just couldn't.
I think you have to be aware of what's available and how to access it in a timely manner. I think meditation helps. I did the mindfulness group. It's an 8-week course through the physicians on the Sunshine Coast. It helps you to relax and be a little more clear-headed.
And if you ask and you don't get it, then you ask again. You have to be willing to be your own best advocate and be an advocate for the person that you're taking care of and love.
When we're getting information in general, we only absorb so much, and a lot of information for our palliative patients is really overwhelming. And so having an advocate to take notes so that someone can reflect later and be like, what? I don't remember what the doctor said or the nurse said at the visit, and then it's written down for them.
In terms of advocates supporting patients, I think the biggest thing is knowing what the patient wants and needs, and that communication is so very important. And so we can only ever be on the same page if we've already talked about it and we know what the patient wants. It can be your friend, it could be your family member, as long as they know what you would like and how you would like to go about it.
When we run into situations where a patient might not be able to speak for themselves anymore, that their advocate knows exactly what they want because they've talked about it multiple times, there's no questions, and they can really be that person's voice when they can't speak for themselves.
I have spent the majority of my nursing career working in palliative care. Walking into a situation where this person is as vulnerable as they're ever going to be, and being able to make a difference, to be able to alleviate suffering, is just the most meaningful work. The patient and family are dancers on a dance floor, and it is not our place to get on the dance floor with them and do the dance. It is our place to hold the space.
Hospice has been a wonderful help. The first call I made, I felt so listened to and so heard.
When I receive a phone call from a palliative client or a bereaved client, what I do is I just listen. I just match them where they are. I'm not trying to tell them what to do. I just want them to know that they're not alone in their journey. We match them with volunteers, and they can meet in a weekly basis with them. When we go to a client's home, we prepare. We take some breaths. We forget about what's going on with us. And then when you open the door of that house or of that hospice room or of the hospital, we are there for them, 100%. We build relationships with clients.
We were lucky to get the person we got. She's wonderful and also willing to see the real person behind the illness. She's gotten to know who John is. He has fun.
And then while I'm doing that, his wife is resting, or she really also benefits for my visits with John.
Over time, family and friends became more important to me. I began to realize how critical that was. But also for me, the whole natural world was incredibly important. And at that point, things like kayaking, walking, being in nature, trying to make sense of what happened, make sense of being alone. Being able to go to hospice, attend a group, write out the story that Marlena and I had together, and to talk about her dying and what it was like to be with her as she died and what it was like to be with her after she died, to be able to share that with the people who were in the same boat. That's probably the biggest thing that we can offer one another, is that sense that we're all in the same boat. We're all dealing with our own deaths. The death of people we love is inevitable. And if people can kind of stay connected to that and relate to each other in that way, it's hugely supportive, hugely supportive.
Medical assistance in dying is a physician-assisted death. It's something that you can choose to do where you choose to do it and when you choose to do it. Something that has to be your decision. It's something you can change your mind at any time. It's just a method of making the suffering be able to stop when you want it to stop. And I think that's a blessing.
This is not suicide. It's an assist to stop suffering. And to have the choice to say, I've had it, I'm done. This is enough. If a person comes to that place, then the kindest thing that we can do is to make sure that when they have made a choice, that choice can be honored.
And I think every reason would be different. And in my case, it's pretty cut and dried. But I know it's getting harder to swallow and harder to talk and harder to breathe. So
It can be a lonely time when you're dying because nobody wants to talk about it. It's so important that the family be willing to set aside their own perspectives, points of view, and just to love enough to let the person who's dying be okay about it. Know they're loved and supported. And our daughters were wonderful when we talked with them about it. They said, we don't like it, but you have our unconditional support. Well, you can't ask for more than that. You can't take other people's pain away. And I know they're so sad about it. They're also so courageous.
Medical assistance in dying is probably one of the most fulfilling things that I do. Also one of the hardest things that I do at the same time. And a big reason why I do that work is because I actually feel like I get to give some power and control back to my patients, and mostly in situations where a lot of control has been taken away from them. So you don't have control over the disease you get diagnosed with. You don't have control over if your treatment's going to work or not. And I feel like medical assistance in dying gives people that control back and a say in how they want to live and how they want to die.
It's a simple procedure to fill out the forms. We went through the process and had the approval. But the support's there with counseling and help.
Depending on what track you fall into, so track 1 being your natural death is in the reasonably foreseeable future, you can go ahead and pick a date whenever you want to. Track 2 being patients whose natural death is not in the reasonably foreseeable future. They have to wait a minimum of 3 months to make sure that they have optimized any other resources, consultations that might need to be done before they would pick a date for a provision.
So I kind of picked a date at the end of August when my dad died. And that date came and went. I don't know, it's difficult because day after day and night after night, I have good nights and I have bad nights and good days and bad days. The whole timing thing I find difficult.
Just because you fill out all the paperwork does not mean that you need to pick a date and proceed. Just because you pick a date and you might be right about ready to start the procedure, you can say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, and that's okay. You can also say, you know what, I'm actually feeling really good and I want to postpone, and that's okay too.
I'm kind of thinking it'd be Lynn and I in the room behind us there and just having the injections. It's a 15-minute process after you start it, so it's not a long thing, but.
So there are 2 different ways that you can have a medically assisted death. Most common way is medications that go through an IV. It's 4 medications that all bring end of life in a very peaceful and dignified way. And the first medication being a strong sedative that gently lets you go to sleep. So once you're asleep, you don't feel anything after that. The other way you can have a medically assisted death is actually drinking a medication. But either way, it's very peaceful, dignified.
People that want to see me have come and said their goodbyes. But I don't think that'll be a big party. I'd like everybody to be out doing something that's fun for them and just leave. Just leave quietly.
The hardest one is just being there for the ones that are left behind. Even as days come by, birthdays, holidays, that's the hardest. Even if you just go and hold their hand a little, like, I'm with you. Just leaving a message that you're caring and thinking about them. Or if you see them another time, just go give them a great big hug. The spirit knows what you mean. A lot of people think, oh, what if I say something wrong? Or, you feel like, I don't know, but just being there for them, that's all. Acknowledging them. And you don't even really have to say nothing. you know, if it's hard for you, it's okay. Because everybody grieves in their own way.
I am experiencing life from a new perspective and learning to be with self differently. So the tears are sadness. And the sadness comes from feeling homesick. Homesick for my partner, my companion. Homesick for the focus caregiving. It's profound. And I'd never experienced that before, the way I was caregiving him. So I kind of got addicted to it in a sense, I would say, that there was just like this profound life force in me that had complete and utter meaning. And right now I don't know what my meaning is. So I'm learning to navigate all the feelings and the sense of loss and sorrow with him not being in this chair, but me being in this chair. And I'm learning to accept that it's time to take care of me after having that profound intimacy with him in the caregiving role. And that's not easy.
If you feel like crying, that's always another teaching, that let it come down, don't hold it. They always say, if you see somebody crying right away, you grab a tissue and give it them. You don't do that because you're stopped them. So you need to carry on with the healing in your way. And it's okay to cry. It's good, it's healthy. You get lighter. After we cry, we usually wash up. We pick ourselves up again with the medicine water.
It's interesting the way the grief happened in those actually years after she died. If the intensity stayed the same, it was just less frequent. So I would be overwhelmed in year 5 almost as much as I was in year 1, but it happened a lot less often. Rumi said, you know, there are 100 ways to kneel and kiss the ground, and I think that's absolutely true. You find the way that you can do it. And sometimes you can feel on top of it, and sometimes you feel like you're barely hanging on, and that's all fine. It's all good.
I have had, I guess, the good fortune to be able to process the grief with John. And I know that that's been really helpful. And it surprises me the stages that you go through of acceptance. I didn't always used to understand what acceptance was about. I thought it meant that you had to like it. You can accept that something's real and not like it at all. except the things you cannot change. Yeah. And then that does free you up to change the things you can. If you're fighting the fight of acceptance, you can't change much, because you're pushing on the wrong brick wall. Really. You know, you're not finding the door.
In a strange way, I take great comfort in knowing how insignificant I am. And I think that's where the beauty of kayaking and all of that is. I'm just so surrounded by the magic and mystery of it all. Every little drop of water, every little leaf, every piece of cloud. And knowing that myself and everyone else is just made of atoms, and these atoms will change shape, and there's still this constancy. Will still continue, but not as a human, is very comforting to me. Some of the time, and at other times it's cold comfort, but that's the way it is. So
I was looking out at this beautiful garden, and I was looking at these roses and how, you know, that bud forms and then it gradually becomes a full rose, and then when the time is right, it drops. This transition that we call death. There's this constant cycle of life.
I don't fear death like I did. And I would rather live life in the present and really live it than fear it. The one thing Troy always said over almost every day, we had this sort of mantra that the acceptance of impermanence is love. I consciously chose love to do this work with him. And now it's shifting to me, giving myself the love that I gave him, and it's much harder. Right now it's hard because I'm longing for that companionship. But every day is different, every day is a new day. And life is beautiful, and every Friday the sun shines in the morning, so I'm blessed.
Life's good. Even though it's hard at places, but I pray every day for everybody. But we just got to make it the best we can. Oh no.